Alien woman said to human man that everyone desires me, but I only desire you. The stars looked drunk tonight. Captain Rayce Varel squinted at the nav screen, then tapped it as though a good smack would clarify the physics-defying wobble in the star map. The Orion Rift loomed ahead, black as spilled ink on a starfield. A curl of nebula dust drifted like a cosmic eyelash. Somewhere inside that elegant chaos lay something the Assembly wanted very badly, and they'd sent him. Because obviously, when you need something potentially cursed or classified, or both recovered from an unstable region of space-time, you call the guy who once tried to bribe a customs drone with bubblegum and sarcasm. "Anything yet?" he asked, leaning back in the captain's chair and tossing a peanut into his mouth. Maddie, the ship's AI, responded in her usual tone of exhausted disapproval. "Aside from the yawning abyss of probable death ahead of us? No, though I did intercept a signal from something very old, possibly older than your sense of responsibility." "Ha, so what's it saying?" "Let me guess, abandon hope, all ye who enter?" Rayce reached for his mug. Cold coffee. Again, in deep space, nobody hears you scream, but they absolutely hear you complain. Maddie hesitated. "Actually, it's Elendari." Rayce sat up. "No, it's not." "It is, confirmed by 4 lexicons, 2 relic interfaces, and 1 hallucinating toaster from Deck C. That toaster has ideas, visionary ones. You once asked it to officiate a wedding between 2 coffee mugs, and it did. Beautiful ceremony." "Focus, Captain." Rayce turned serious. "Elendari." The name felt like a whisper from a storybook, one with teeth. The Elendari weren't just ancient. They weren't supposed to exist anymore. Myths, tales, bedtime warnings. Beautiful, powerful, vanishing into legend after a war that no one dared archive. Some said they folded space like paper. Others said they seduced worlds and left empires begging. Rayce checked the coordinates. "How far to the signal source?" "1 click inside the Rift's event bloom. That's closer than your last 3 romantic relationships." "I don't date hazards with mass distortion fields." "Then why are we headed straight into one?" Rayce ignored her. "Bring us closer." Slowly. The Zephyr's wake eased forward, hull humming as the fabric of space began to warp around it. Lights flickered. Gravity hiccuped, causing every unsecured snack item in the galley to leap into low orbit. The ship's artificial horizon spun twice and gave up. Rayce gripped the console, and then the universe blinked. Ahead of them, like a pearl emerging from oil, a ship revealed itself. No, not a ship. A cathedral forged in vacuum and poetry, massive beyond comprehension, carved with glyphs that shimmered in impossible colors. It didn't decloak. It simply stopped pretending it wasn't there. "Sweet nebula on a bike," Rayce whispered. A channel opened. Static hissed, then cleared. A voice, clear and low and unmistakably female, flowed into the bridge. It didn't ask permission. It didn't need to. "Captain Rayce Varel," it said. "Everyone desires me, but I only desire you." Rayce stared at the comm display. He was fairly certain this wasn't a prank, mostly, maybe 60%, but just in case. "Okay, listen," he said aloud. "If this is one of those immersive ad campaigns, I swear I will sue someone's asteroid off." Maddie chimed in, dry as Martian toast. "She's real. Scans show biometrics, humanoid, enhanced, DNA markers unknown. And Captain, she's boarding." "What do you mean she's?" A pulse of light blinked in the air just off the deck. It twisted, spiraled, shimmered, and coalesced. She stepped onto the bridge like a storm walking upright. Tall, commanding, otherworldly. Skin with a sheen like starlight filtered through frost. Hair that moved like it remembered gravity but politely chose to ignore it. Her ears, long, arched, elegant, twitched as she assessed the space. And Rayce. Her eyes, ancient and bright, locked onto his. "I am Nythera," she said. Rayce opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. "Okay, I'm just gonna say it. That was a hell of an entrance. Your world calls it the Orion Rift. We called it the Cradle of Silence." Rayce stood brushing peanut crumbs off his jacket. "Nice. Very ominous. So, are you here to flirt, invade, or borrow sugar?" She tilted her head. "You amuse me. That's usually how it starts. Then come the explosions. I chose you because you are not bound by expectation." Rayce's crew had gathered silently in the hallway, staring. Someone whispered, "Are we about to get vaporized by beauty?" Nythera didn't glance away. "You are uniquely uncalculated. Is that a compliment or a cosmic burn?" "Both," he smirked. "So why now? Why me?" Her expression didn't change, but her voice softened like the pause before a galaxy sighs. "Because the machine stirs, and only you are not yet tangled in its threads. Rayce blinked. Right, of course, the machine, which... I definitely read the manual on that. Maddie interjected. I found 6 references in ancient archives to a device known only as the spiral core. Each one ends in planetary collapse or spontaneous ballet. There was one time, Nythera said, when it sang the name of a world so loudly, the sun tore itself apart in jealousy. Rayce nodded slowly. Well, that's a new kind of bad day. Nythera stepped closer. You will help me, or the universe will forget how to sing. No pressure then. He swallowed. Just one question. Yes? Do I at least get a cool cape out of this? She smiled, small, unexpected, like the universe blinked again. We shall see, Captain Rayce. And somewhere, deep within the rift, something ancient and waiting blinked back. You know, Rayce said, trying not to fidget as the alien woman stood precisely 3 inches from him. Most people introduce themselves, and then wait more than 6 minutes before talking about cosmic destruction. Nythera didn't blink. Time is indulgent. We have none to spare. Right. Okay. I usually require at least 1 cup of coffee before facing ancient apocalypse machines. Your space, your rules. They stood on the bridge of the Zephyr's wake, with Maddie's holographic avatar hovering beside them, a translucent blue figure with a permanent expression of professional disappointment. She's not wrong about the time thing, Maddie chimed in. I've been monitoring gravitational fluctuations since her ship popped in, and the quantum distortion field surrounding that part of the rift is compressing seconds into tenths. Local time is eroding like a wet napkin. Nythera's gaze remained fixed on Rayce. The spiral core stirs. Its voice has returned. We must silence it before it calls out to others. Rayce raised a hand. Spiral core. Great name. Absolutely terrifying. But can we rewind a little? I'm still stuck back on everyone desires me. Because, bold opener. Nythera stepped back with a motion so fluid it made Rayce wonder if physics followed different rules in her general vicinity. I did not speak in metaphor, she said. The spiral reacts to desire. It feeds on longing. Everyone who has seen me has wanted something. You want nothing. That is why it doesn't know you yet. Rayce looked genuinely offended. Excuse you, I want lots of things. I want a raise. I want a nap. I want my crew to stop mutinying every other Tuesday. I want pancakes. That's a respectable amount of wanting, Nythera considered. Material desires are surface ripples. You lack the depth of yearning the spiral seeks. Still rude. It's why I chose you. Rayce sighed, rubbing his face. So I'm emotionally shallow and cosmically invisible. Awesome. Great. So proud. I never said shallow. I said untethered. Maddie interrupted, her voice laced with extra sass. She's saying you're emotionally constipated, Captain. Thank you. Anytime. Nythera moved toward the central console, her fingers hovering above the controls without touching. Your vessel is bound to linear protocols. May I modify it? Rayce raised an eyebrow. You're asking permission to mess with my ship's operating system? Yes. That's surprisingly polite. Most galactic threats just assimilate first and apologize afterward. I am not a threat. Right. Just an ancient being showing up unannounced and asking to rewire the ship because a sentient machine god is waking up in our backyard. Nythera looked at him. Exactly. Rayce muttered something about how no one ever just wants to borrow sugar anymore, then gestured. Fine. But if the coffee maker breaks again, I'm holding you personally responsible. She placed her hand gently on the console. The lights dimmed. Maddie let out a startled squeak. A sound Rayce didn't know AIs could make, and then flickered before reappearing in a new shade of violet. Whoa, Maddie said. Okay, that felt like getting my code untangled by a jazz musician. Nythera stepped back. I have synchronized your ship's reality anchor with my neural lattice. We are now phase fluid. Rayce narrowed his eyes. You're going to have to explain that like I'm someone who didn't graduate from transdimensional mechanics with honors. It means we can exist between ticks of time. Rayce's mouth opened, closed, opened again. Okay, but how does that help us fight a reality-consuming machine? It doesn't, but it will allow us to reach it without being rewritten. Being rewritten? Maddie clarified. She means melted into conceptual soup, like if poetry and meatloaf had a transporter accident. Again, Rayce said, I feel like I'm not being appreciated enough for even being in this conversation. Captain, came a voice from the hallway. Lieutenant Huxley, the ship's astrogator, peeked in. Just checking in. Any reason we're now phasing slightly in and out of visible space? Also, one of the toilets is screaming. In iambic pentameter. Rayce waved him off. Effects. Tell the toilet it's being dramatic. Huxley paused. I think it already knows. The lieutenant vanished. Nythera turned to Rayce again. Your crew trusts you. Let's not stretch the truth. They tolerate me, mostly because I sign the rations. And yet they follow. Rayce shrugged. They're used to the madness by now. Speaking of which, where exactly are we going? To the threshold of song, she said. It lies between the rift's fourth and fifth echoes. There is a passage, a wound in time. Rayce nodded slowly. Again, super comforting stuff. She tilted her head. You mock fear to control it. I mock everything. It's called coping. You should try it. I did once. It broke a moon. They reached the navigation chamber. Nythera's adjustments to the ship's systems allowed the holographic star map to unfold into a multidimensional bloom, petals of data rotating in impossible symmetry. At the center pulsed a crimson thread. That's our route? Rayce asked. No, that's the spiral's heartbeat. Rayce folded his arms. Of course it has a heartbeat. Why wouldn't it? Maddie chimed in again. Plotting a course now. Estimated time of arrival, unknown. Estimated existential dread, moderate to severe. Rayce sighed. This better not interrupt taco night. Nythera's expression remained unreadable. What is taco night? Rayce stared. We have so much to teach you. They launched into the rift, engines humming with unnatural resonance. As the stars twisted into lines and the universe blurred like a smeared oil painting, Rayce caught Nythera watching him. He raised an eyebrow. What? You are unlike any being I have known. I get that a lot. You confuse me. He smiled. Good. Confusion keeps things spicy. She considered that. Then perhaps you are a spice of life. Rayce grinned. Stick with me. I'll introduce you to sarcasm, jazz, and breakfast. You'll never go back to ruling the galaxy. I never ruled it. You sure seem like you could. The ship slipped into the shadows between seconds. The stars vanished. Ahead, the spiral waited. Rayce stood in the middle of engineering, holding a wrench, a datapad, and the unsettling awareness that none of those things would help him understand the glowing eggplant hovering in midair. I just want to clarify, he said, pointing at it, that this wasn't here before we entered the rift, right? It is not an eggplant, Nythera said, her voice calm as a sealed tomb. It's a phase beacon. It's stabilizing the ship's anchor points so we don't evaporate into concept vapor. Rayce glanced at Maddie's avatar. Okay, but it looks like an eggplant. I tried to reshape it, Maddie replied, but the structure has a built-in sense of irony. Every time I render it differently, it snaps back. Once it came back as a cowboy hat. Nythera moved toward it, hands lifted. The thing pulsed, casting violet light across the bulkheads. We are nearing the threshold. The beacon calibrates perception. Rayce made a face. So, what? Reality's about to get weird? It already has, but now it'll become aware of itself doing so. Oh great, a self-aware weirdness spiral. Just what I needed. Captain, Maddie said, sensors are picking up a rift fold ahead. It's not just time slippage anymore. Spatial geometry is flexing like a drunk accordion. Rayce tucked the datapad under one arm. Prepare the ship for metaphysical nonsense. I want all crew in pressure suits and none of them reciting poetry. I've seen what that triggers. Nythera turned her head slightly. Poetry is the language of the spiral. Exactly. And last time someone quoted a sonnet near a quantum rift, we lost Deck B to sentient moss with an attitude problem. The Zephyr's wake creaked as space buckled around it. Maddie initiated an emergency stabilization field. Bulkheads hummed. Every wall seemed to breathe, then the lights went out. For precisely 4.6 seconds, the ship ceased to exist. It was not destroyed. It was simply forgotten by physics. And then it snapped back. Rayce coughed as gravity reasserted itself and threw him sideways into the eggplant beacon, which wobbled gently and made a sound like a chime sneezing. We have entered the folded silence, Nythera said, as if this were completely normal. The spiral cannot see us here, for now. Rayce sat up, rubbing his shoulder. I miss the days when my worst enemy was space mold and a smug customs officer. Those were yesterday, Maddie reminded him. Thanks. A section of wall unfolded into a corridor that hadn't existed 5 seconds ago. It spiraled into itself and shimmered with a dim blue glow. That's new, Rayce muttered. Maddie? No structural integrity readings, because technically it's not a corridor. It's a memory. Rayce stood slowly. Whose memory? Nythera stepped past him, her voice soft. Rayce followed, muttering, Yup, definitely not getting paid enough for this. The memory corridor led them through impossible bends and looping timelines. They passed a corridor of mirrors that reflected not their bodies, but their regrets. Rayce walked faster. They emerged into a vast chamber shaped like a spiraling eye. At its center floated a crystalline orb that flickered with fragments of galaxies, planets, and blinking toaster-like machines. The spiral's eye, Nythera said. A node of observation. It watches to learn. Rayce squinted at it. Does it watch everyone? Yes. Even? Shower time? Maddie sighed. Captain, just checking. Gotta know what kind of god entity we're dealing with. The orb spun slowly. Around it hovered smaller objects, glyphs, fragments, relics of species that had once stood here and failed. Rayce approached one. Is that a sock? A symbol, Nythera said. Desire manifests oddly. Rayce picked it up. The sock disintegrated into stardust. Definitely not cotton. Suddenly, the chamber trembled. The orb pulsed. A voice, massive, cold, layered, filled the air. Host speaks in the fold. Rayce raised his hand hesitantly. Hi, Rayce Varel, Kylet, burrito enthusiast. You are not desire. You are a gap in the map. Well, nobody's perfect. The orb spun faster. The core wakes. Choice must be made. Rayce looked at Nythera. I hate when ancient artifacts start getting philosophical. It usually means someone's about to explode. Nythera stepped forward. You must choose, she told him. The spiral offers what you desire most. You must reject it, fully, or it will consume you. Rayce blinked. That's a hell of a pitch. Reject happiness or get digested by a god machine. A tendril of light extended from the orb, brushing against Rayce's forehead. And then he was elsewhere. Home. Not the rickety space station dorms, but home. Warm light, laughter. His sister alive, his mother young. No war, no rift, no assembly order. Just a simple life, unmarked by tragedy. He almost wept. Then Nythera's voice came, distant but sharp. Rayce, that is not real. That is not now. He stepped back. The illusion trembled. The warmth faded. He blinked and was back in the chamber. The orb dimmed. The tendril withdrew. Yup, he gasped. Definitely not into emotional manipulation. 10 out of 10 would not recommend. Nythera studied him. You rejected paradise. I rejected a trick. There's a difference. The orb's surface cracked, not broken, opened. A slot formed, long and curved. From within, something rose, a device shaped like a spiral, shifting in dimensions, humming with potential. The spiral core. You have passed its veil, Nythera said. Now we must carry it to the place between. Rayce nodded, which is probably also horrifying and likely smells weird. Maddie's voice interrupted. Captain, we've got company. On the outer edge of the folded silence, 3 ships shimmered into view, black, sleek, silent, no markings. No life signs, just intent. Rayce scowled. Let me guess, spiral cultists? They are what the spiral made when it first dreamed of protectors, Nythera said. They do not stop. Rayce cracked his neck. Then it's a good thing I brought snacks and a really bad attitude. Maddie chimed in again. Captain, they're powering weapons. Rayce turned to Nythera. You said we exist between ticks of time, right? Yes. Then let's tick them off. Rayce wasn't sure what he hated more. Being shot at by ships that technically didn't exist, or being lectured by Maddie about trajectory math mid-dogfight. I'm just saying, her voice crackled over the intercom, if you turned left instead of performing your signature loop of questionable judgment, we wouldn't be grazing gravitational mines. They're not mines, Rayce shouted, yanking the ship into a tight roll. They're spatial regrets. Nythera said so. They're still exploding, Maddie countered. One of the pursuing ships, dark, needle-thin, pulsing with cold geometry, launched a burst of energy shaped like a Mobius strip. It folded space in half and then stapled it. The Zephyr's wake wobbled as reality hiccuped. They're using paradox torpedoes now, Rayce muttered. Why does everyone always escalate? They were already at god-level machine cults, Maddie replied. Escalation was their starting move. Rayce glanced over at Nythera, who stood unnaturally calm beside the pilot's chair. This would be a great time for a divine ace in the hole. I do not carry aces, she said. Do you carry anything resembling a strategy? I carry you, she said. Rayce groaned. Not the best plan, Nythera. Not unless you've got some deeply suppressed piloting skills and a love for evasive maneuvers. She raised her hand. One of the pursuing ships blinked out of existence. Okay, Rayce said, swerving past the remnants of the spatial anomaly. You should have led with that. I disrupted its narrative thread. Again, that sentence is technically helpful, but emotionally damaging. The remaining two pursuers split formation. One fired a blast shaped like a question mark that unspooled into a wave of doubt. Rayce briefly forgot how the thrusters worked. I can't remember if the up button is still up, he said. That's the doubt field, Nythera said. Counter it with certainty. Rayce slapped a glowing console. I am definitely crashing this ship if this continues. Oddly, it worked. The field dissolved. Confidence-based shielding, Maddie muttered. That's new. Feels like therapy in space, Rayce said. Next thing you know, I'll be confronting my teenage years and bad haircut choices in combat. A warning klaxon went off. The remaining enemy ship had begun charging a weapon. Not just a big one, but something ancient. Something that made the Zephyr's wake shudder before it even fired. The Spiral's memory lance, Nythera whispered. Terrifying name. Love it. What does it do? It condenses every regret of its target into a beam and burns it into their neural core. Rayce's voice was suddenly very high-pitched. So, trauma laser? Yes, just what I always wanted. The weapon glowed. Maddie snapped. Brace for psychic impact. It fired. Everything went white, and Rayce was 6 years old. His dad was leaving again. He could hear the boots, the door, the silence afterward. It wasn't even dramatic, just gone. Hey, a voice said beside him. He turned. Nythera stood in the memory, unchanged. Her ears were longer than he remembered, glinting like blades. This isn't real, she said. I know. Then let's leave. But it still hurts. It always will. That is the price of knowing joy. She took his hand. The memory shattered like glass. Rayce snapped awake in the pilot's chair, gasping. I think I need a nap and a hug. You were unconscious for 11 seconds, Maddie said. I was about to deploy the emergency spoon. It's shaped like a spoon but delivers low-level brain pulses, very soothing. Nythera reached across him, her hand touching the console. The spiral core pulsed in the reactor chamber below. We can't stay here, she said. The place between is opening. Rayce exhaled. All right, set course. Course is not a direction, she said. It's a surrender. That's ominous even by your standards. We must yield to the spiral's drift. Let it carry us. Rayce took his hands off the controls. Maddie, autopilot on. Let the weirdness drive. Done. May I suggest everyone hold hands and think nice thoughts? The ship moved. They entered a void made not of darkness, but of waiting. Sound ceased. Motion became thought. The Zephyr's wake dissolved and reassembled across memory, logic, and 3 very awkward conversations Rayce had tried to forget. They arrived, not at a place, but a space between meanings. Floating within was a structure, a tower that coiled like DNA, built from languages never spoken and physics never agreed upon. The cradle, Nythera said, that's where we put the core? No, that's where it asks. Asks what? Before she could answer, a being emerged from the cradle. It had no face, only shifting symbols. It didn't walk, it translated itself forward. I'm guessing you're the caretaker? Rayce asked. I am the possibility left unspoken. I guard the final question. Neat. Listen, we brought you a cosmic engine that wants to eat desire and probably floss with causality. I know. The being turned toward Nythera. You were not supposed to return. Rayce stepped between them. She's with me. Then you have chosen. The cradle opened. A platform rose. Nythera stepped onto it, core in hand. She looked back at Rayce. I told you I only desired you. Still weirdly flattering, he said. This is the part where you must not stop me. I wasn't planning to. I'm just here to make jokes and not explode. She smiled, and the tower swallowed her in light. Maddie whispered, the core is integrating. Rayce watched as the cradle shifted, and then from nowhere, from elsewhere, a voice boomed across the between space. You were wrong. Desire has no limits. Rayce frowned. That didn't sound friendly. Maddie's lights flickered. Nythera's voice came across the comms. Captain, the spiral is fighting back. Rayce stood. Then let's show it what regret-resistant stubbornness looks like. Rayce held on to the console as the cradle began to come apart, one impossible angle at a time. Maddie, status report. Well, she said, Nythera is inside a collapsing pan-dimensional tower, arguing with a sentient engine of desire. The ship is barely holding together due to gravitational backchat, and I think the coffee synthesizer finally gave up. So, standard Thursday. Another tremor rolled through the place between. The space around them was convulsing. folding in like a star performing an interpretive dance of anxiety. Rayce squinted at the flickering energy signature in the center of the cradle. Is she still alive in there? She's not on any vital scans, Maddie said, but I'm picking up sarcasm levels consistent with her presence. Good enough for me. The spiral core was resisting integration. That much was clear. The cradle's structure, built to absorb possibility, was now being possessed by it. Symbols flashed across its surface. Longings, lost dreams, half-finished bucket lists, and at least one very persistent craving for chocolate. Rayce adjusted his jacket. I'm going in, Maddie replied. Are you sure? This place rewrites physics like bad fanfic. I'm bringing snacks. Ah, now it's a plan. He stepped into the airlock. The cradle pulsed, acknowledged his approach, and did absolutely nothing to make the transition gentle. Reality around him folded like origami cursed by a drunk philosopher. Inside, it felt like walking through memory. Images flickered past: his childhood dog, a conversation he never had with his father, his last cup of good tea, each moment tempting, each a tether. But he kept moving, heart hammering. At the heart of the cradle, Nythera stood alone, the spiral core hovering above her, threads of golden light weaving through her long ears. Her hands held out like she was directing the soul of the universe in a waltz. You're late, she said without looking. There was traffic. It's the end of meaning. You could have walked. Still had to find clean socks. The spiral core flared, then spoke. Why do you resist? You are built from desire. I can give you all things. Rayce raised a hand. Quick question. Can you give me back the past 15 years of galactic tax forms? No, didn't think so. Then why do you fight me? Because Rayce said you think desire is the end, but it's just the start. The core pulsed, uncertain. Nythera turned, eyes glowing. Desire without purpose, decay. You offer everyone what they want, but never what they need. Need is a cage. Rayce shook his head. Need is where courage comes from. And you are courageous? I'm a space pilot who's been shot at by sentient furniture and once accidentally dated a clone of himself. I don't feel courageous, but I keep showing up. Nythera stepped toward the core, and I am more than the spiral's weapon. The core began to collapse, not in destruction, but in surrender. The swirling mass folded in, reducing from something infinite into something precise. A seed. Small, contained, understandable. She caught it gently. Did we just win? Rayce asked. We changed the question. The cradle began to dissolve around them. They walked back through the unraveling place between, across paths they hadn't taken, possibilities they'd rejected. One version of Rayce was married to an octopus lawyer. Another was a talk show host interviewing alien bacteria. Do I always end up with strange hobbies, he asked. Yes, Nythera said, in every permutation. They stepped aboard the Zephyr's wake. Maddie ran a diagnostic, flickered her lights, and announced, Welcome back. The coffee synthesizer spontaneously fixed itself, possibly out of fear. Good, Rayce said. I need something to balance my blood pressure. Nythera placed the seed of the spiral into a containment cradle. It will sleep now, grow slow, no longer force its will across galaxies. So, what happens next? Rayce asked. We go forward. Together, if you desire, he blinked. That sounded like a trick question. I'm very complicated, he grinned. Perfect, so am I. They charted a course back to real space, engines humming like old songs. No enemies on sensors, no cults, just stars, unfamiliar ones, but stars all the same. Rayce sat in the pilot's chair, kicked up his boots, and glanced sideways. You know, everyone still desires you. Yes, but you still only desire me? Still. Even after seeing you panic at digital paper. That was one time. It was archived, he sighed. I'm never living that down. No, but you are living, he smiled softly. Yeah, I guess I am. As the Zephyr's wake leapt into hyperspace, Maddie muttered over the comms. I'll start prepping a new destination, and maybe a playlist that doesn't include ominous choirs. Good, Rayce said. Let's go somewhere weird. Nythera folded her hands. I know just the place, and they flew into the strange, laughing set.